Hello there, welcome to Genesis Models. My name is Bob Waldron and welcome to another HMS Victory build video. Now if you remember last week we were talking about the colour of HMS Victory, how it's gone from this lovely yellow ochre to this weird strange looking salmon pink. Now I'm going to have a bit of a spiel and a blabber on about the colour and everything, so if you're kind of not that interested, just fast forward a couple of minutes and get to the build side of things. By the way, the answer is I'm going to be painting HMS Victory yellow ochre if you wanted to know, but if you want to stick around to if you are interested in these kind of things where you kind of find out the colours and everything, just carry on watching. So basically what we have here is the museum's gone off and got scientists to find out that what they believe is the colour of HMS Victory in 1805 was this salmon pink colour. Now when you look at what the museum has said, they haven't said 100% this is a guaranteed fact of what the colour is. They do use a lot of wording along the lines of this is most probably the most likely colour that HMS Victory was in 1805. So you know, there isn't a 100% fact that they state there, and what I've basically gone off and done, because I just can't help but look at this salmon pink and just think it just doesn't look right, it looks wrong. I've done a bit of research and I've came up with three major things really, but really, you know, take what I say with a pinch of salt, because you know, I'm probably wrong. You know, I've just kind of just looked on the internet, nothing big, you know, nothing majorly scientific or anything, and you know what, you know, at the end of the day, the museum has put money and resources behind trying to find this salmon pink colour. They've got actual scientists to find this colour, so you know what, they are probably right, but I've got a few things that makes me a bit skeptical about their decision. The first thing is, I mean, using a bit of common sense, right, find some actual paintings, right? We're talking canvas paintings where, you know, somebody who was alive there and then when HMS Victory was sailing goes off and actually paints HMS Victory in with their, you could almost say with their artistic license as well, but you will find pictures and you will see these yellow stripes on ships like HMS Victory and all sorts of sailing ships back then as well, which does kind of make you wonder why an artist back then would paint HMS Victory yellow stripes when the scientists of today are saying it's a salmon pink. It just makes you wonder, right? The second thing was as well is, you know, there are records of how you know, the stuff like the quartermasters would keep records of how much paint is on the ships to repair the ships, and stuff like the Admiralty and stuff kind of, you know, saying how they should paint the ships and stuff, you know, and these records are showing stuff like, you know, ships like HMS Victory having a load of white paint and having a load of yellow paint, and you know, the basics was to mix these paints together to come up with the colour to paint ships like HMS Victory, which does make you wonder as well, because you can't really make salmon pink with just a yellow and a white paint, right? You have to add some sort of a bit of red in there or something to come up with this salmon pink, which, you know, this second one's a bit skeptical, because I do believe they did have red on the ship as well to paint the gun ports and stuff, so they probably could have done, so you know, you take that one with a pinch of salt. But the big one I did kind of find, which really sort of made me wonder, was I did find a nice sort of scientific paper thing, and it was all kind of going on about chemical reactions and all this kind of stuff, because I was just wondering, we know that the paint they used back then, they used lead. It was lead white paints and stuff, right? So there was lead in the paint, and I was just wondering what kind of discolorations happen with lead, and I found this very interesting paper, quite complicated as well, because as I say, there was going on about reactions and all this kind of stuff and certain chemicals doing this, but the basic gist of this scientific paper was that over time lead white paint does discolor, right? And what I found was kind of like a woo moment was the colour in which it discolours to, and you could probably guess it. The discoloration basically went pink. In fact, I should probably try and find it again. I can't remember where it was, but they had these pictures on there, and they'd show this white lead paint, and they'd show the discoloration to pink, and it was almost a perfect match to HMS Victory's new salmon pink. It was kind of mad. Actually reading that paper, I should try and find it out for you guys, but yeah, it really does kind of make you think. I mean, how mad would that be if maybe these scientists kind of didn't take that into consideration and they got it wrong? Would be absolutely mental, because that's going off another scientific paper saying how there is a chemical reaction with lead white paint and it goes pink, and it would be absolutely mental if that was the case. But in saying that, this is just stuff I've kind of found. It's there's no real sort of these are facts and stuff and all this kind of stuff. It's just something I wanted to share with you guys, because the whole reason why I've spent so much time on this is this is a big model. It's a year. It's going to take years to kind of build this thing. It's a massive project, and it's something you want to get right. You don't want to be kind of messing up and putting the wrong colors down and everything. So I have put a load of research into it to get it to a point where I'm happy to say, right, I'm ready to go. I'm going to paint this ochre yellow. I know the science behind this salmon pink, but I just don't feel comfortable with it. And at the end of the day, I just want to kind of leave the color at this this final point of, what, nobody is in the wrong, right? You can paint HMS Victory technically 3 colors and you would not be wrong, right? Because the real HMS Victory has been painted, as far as I know, it's been painted, I think it was in the 1920s, it was painted white. Right, so you could paint it white. It's been painted, after it was painted white, it's been painted this ochre yellow, and now in 2017 it's been painted this salmon pink. So all these 3 colors, you could go off with your scale model and you could paint them, and you wouldn't be wrong. You'd just be showing HMS Victory at a certain point in its lifetime, right? So no color is actually wrong, so you can kind of feel happy in that. In a way, everybody's right in a sense. So there is that good thing about it, but I'm going to go with the ochre yellow, and let's face it, I have already sort of started painting it ochre yellow, and I do like the look of it, and I don't really want to sort of tear this little boat here apart and start repainting and all that kind of stuff as well. But yeah, hopefully you found that interesting, and if you didn't, hopefully you kind of fast forwarded and didn't kind of listen to all my spiel. But we're now going to get on with the actual build, which, as I said, I was going to sort of just go right back to the beginning to get this whole build quick started. I'm going to go right back to the beginning, get out issue 1 and just start from there, which does mean we are going to be building these little babies right here, which I'm going to show you right now, which is our 12-pounder cannons. So now that we're moving along with our 12-pounder guns and basically going from issue 1 and working our way back through all the stuff we've missed, here we are with the 12-pounders just here. Now what we want to do a bunch of prep work first. So we do have these sort of side walls here for our 12-pounder. Nice and simply, we can get a blade and just cut this off like so, right, and that should be kind of nice. But what we've got, we do have a bit of sort of flash, as you can see there. So nicely getting out a sort of a sanding stick. I'm using like around about a medium and a fine sided sanding stick. Sanding sticks, really good place to get them. Any sort of online shop. I do like the Flurry Models brand, and they do really good sanding sticks, and probably use them a lot in this video. But we can nicely now sort of maybe go with the medium grit, and we can just sand that little bit of a tab off just there, right? And once we can sort of feel that it's gone, right, we can actually sort of then sort of move to the fine. So we're basically, you know, working our way down the grits, right, to remove nasty things like this, and then we should end up with something like that. But what I want to do is I want to sort of enhance this a little bit more, because you can see these little lines running across here, which is basically sort of representing, you know, planks of wood being piled on top of each other and stuff, but we don't see them this side. So this is where I want to slight little bit of scratch building, so to speak. What we're going to do, nice little micro saw just here. This is by MK, not very expensive, you know, nice and cheap, and a really good tool to have. And what we're going to do is right where we have one of these lines, right, what we're going to do is just holding it in this position. This is a nice sturdy position, as you can see, to actually hold our tool. And what we do is right on the corner, we'll get where our groove is, where our recess is just there, and then we'll just sort of saw it across like so. And if we do nice little passes like this, we'll then end up with a sort of a nice straight line going across there where it should be, and then we can sort of nicely sort of saw in that a little bit just to tidy it up. Right, and what we should end up with, I do find that actually just sticking your nail in there as well after doing that bit of sawing does help rather nicely, and you end up with something like that, whereby, you know, the recess follows all the way around to represent basically that wood is going around quite nicely. Try not to sort of saw in too deeply, but that should look rather nice and add a little bit extra. I'll do the other side off camera. Other things we want to do ready for prep, we've got these bits of lung wire as well. Some of them will potentially be bent like so. We want them straight. Nice, quick, easy little tip here. Let's move some of this out the way. Getting your sanding stick again, and plain simply we can just roll on this like so, and as you can see I had a bend in that, but as I sort of roll this out like so, it goes all nice and straight. Nice little tip there. Other thing is right on the ends, right, they haven't been cut off the best. I mean, to be fair, we're probably going to be doing this a lot, because actually cutting these with sort of cutters and stuff, you end up with these sort of nasty sort of ends on them, and we want the ends to be flat. So getting out some sort of a file, they're pretty sort of cheap. I do find the more you spend on files and stuff though, they end up being better quality. So I'm just going to now just, you know, directly, nice good 90-degree angle. You've got to give it a bit. I mean, it does take a bit to sort of sand down, but you do end up getting it all nice and flat, and it just looks, it's just going to look a hell of a lot neater when it comes to these, because they are going to be sticking out. I'll show you one that I've already built. You can see how they're going to stick out just there, and if they're kind of like pointy because of the way they've been cut, it just looks a little bit nastier. Then we have the actual gun itself just here, which does have a little hole just inside there. I want to sort of make that a little bit bigger, just to be a bit more realistic. I've got in here a 1.5mm drill bit, and because we've already got a pilot hole, this is quite easy, but I mean, we are drilling into metal, so it will take a little bit to actually sort of widen that hole a bit. We don't have to go too deep, I mean just deep enough that we have this illusion that it's deep. Right, and we just end up opening up that hole a lot more, and hopefully you can sort of see how we've opened that up a little bit more. You could probably go a bit bigger if you wanted to. The other thing is as well is that, I mean, actually this one is looking pretty damn good. That is actually quite surprising. But basically what I was going to say is that these guns, you know, they are molds that come together, make two halves, and round that where it's sort of joined, you get a little bit of the metal sort of kind of not quite lined up and you have this sort of join line around it. I was going to say sand it out, but this particular one is absolutely perfect, which is very unusual because the last one I did needed some work. Just found one that does need that bit of work. Kind of strange how that one's perfect, but still. Coming along with this nice skinny stick just here. It's got a nice light to medium roughness to it, and then we've got this polishing side on the other side. Now I know we are sort of sanding at metal, but you know, even these sticks will be able to sort of sand this away. And when I sort of sand at this now, you'll be able to see what I'm on about with the join. As soon as I sand away some of this black paint, you should hopefully see a little bit of a join there where it's showing the paint sort of shows it off. Maybe a little bit more here might help you a little bit. You'll be able to see almost like a step in it. It's kind of light, but basically we will just want to sort of sand at this until we're nice and seamless, until we can't see. Now because we're sort of sanding on metal, actually this nice fine medium grit that we have here will be pretty much enough. You shouldn't have to kind of use any other sanding stick really. But just to also sort of note as well, this as you can see, it's spongy, and what this does is it goes with the curvature as well, because if we used one of these flat sanding sticks, and because this is like a curve, got a curve to it, a flat sanding stick is going to sand a flat top on it and make it look a bit weird, whereas a spongy sanding stick will go with the curvature of our piece here. And basically you just want to sand these until, you know, you're not seeing any join lines or anything like that, and it's all nicely looking as though it's all one piece. We're now going to do a bit of gluing, so just getting out some super glue. I like to use anything really, some sort of top, a lid, cotton wool bud lid, just like I'm using just here. And what we're going to do, super glue. I used to kind of use all these fancy super glues and they come in big pots and stuff, but I've just found that over the years, plain and simply, nice, cheap, easy super glue, anything you can get your hands on, it's all basically the same really. I know there's some situations where you could do with like a more specialized super glue, but most of the time cheap super glue, they come in these little pots, and the whole point is that because they come in these little pots is, you know, when all the ends go all nasty and horrible and all the glue's all gone funny, hopefully you've used up all your super glue, or you're only throwing away a little bit that's left in there, rather than I've done in the past. I've had these big pots of super glue. They're supposed to be kind of expensive, you know, the nozzles end up going all funny and you can't even use the rest of the super glue and you throw it all away. But anyway, then we have some cocktail sticks, nice easy cocktail sticks, just for getting our actual super glue on the end of a cocktail stick. And what we want to do is we want to glue these bits together. Now before we glue it together, we do have to be sort of careful where we glue them. We basically want to glue this on here like so, but what we want to do is we want to have it nicely butted up this end, right, so nice and flush, all nicely butted up like so. But then what we also want to do is make sure that we're not overlapping our holes. These holes, right, are going to have these rods go through them, right, like so. So we can't have this piece overlapping them, right, and the same the other side. I mean, we basically want to butt it up as close to that hole as possible. Sorry about my compressor, I think I've got a slight leak because it does keep coming on. But anyway, so what we want to do is get a nice bit of super glue now, using our cocktail stick, nice bit of super glue, and try and sort of put a little dollop at each end. We don't want loads because we don't want this oozing out. If it oozes out loads, it's going to make a bit of a mess. We just want it just enough for this to just nicely glue into place, and we don't need loads, right? I mean, you know, it doesn't have to be like solid as a rock. So you need to, with super glue, you know, you don't have much time to mess about. You want to sort of pretty sort of quickly get that lined up. You've got a bit, you know, a limited amount of time to play around with this. And then once you've got it sort of in place, you do want to sort of make sure you've got a good nice angle on that. I mean, you could get out you could get one of these and you can just sort of make sure the angle's all nice, but that's looking good. And then you basically want to do it the same on the other half.